enchanted moment.
Tombstone wasn't just another Western. It was a battlefield where egos clashed harder than stagecoach robberies. The real director vanished into thin air. Val Kilmer nearly died for his art, and blood that wasn't fake stained the Arizona dust. These are 10 shocking secrets about Tombstone. And the bonus? The descendants of real gunfighters tried to shut it down. I'm your Huckleberry.
I'm your Huckleberry.
This tale of Hollywood deception runs deeper than any silver mine. 1. The director who vanished into thin air. Here's what they never told you about Tombstone's Biggest Lie. George P. Cosmatos got director credit, but he barely directed a single scene. The man actually calling action and cut, Kurt Russell. Nobody knew the leading man had secretly taken over the entire production. Russell couldn't get official director credit because of insurance nightmares and union contracts that would have shut down filming. So they created Hollywood's most elaborate shell game. Cosmatos became the industry's most expensive puppet, showing up to set just to make it look legitimate while Russell orchestrated every gunfight, every dramatic moment, every iconic line delivery. The studio buried this truth so deep that even cast members didn't realize what was happening until years later. When Cosmatos died in 2005, he took the secret to his grave. But Russell? He finally admitted it decades later, shocking an industry that thought they knew everything about their beloved Western. The real director was hiding in plain sight. 2. Val Kilmer's method madness nearly killed him. Here's the devastating truth about Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday that nobody talks about. Kilmer didn't just play a man dying of tuberculosis. He nearly destroyed himself becoming one. The actor lost a dangerous amount of weight, studying medical texts about the disease until he could mimic every symptom perfectly. Cast members watched in horror as Kilmer grew skeletal, coughing fits becoming so realistic they thought he was actually sick. His obsession went beyond professional. It became pathological. Kilmer isolated himself from everyone, staying in character between takes, speaking in Doc's southern drawl for weeks. The psychological toll was devastating. His relationship with the cast crumbled as he became increasingly erratic and unpredictable. What shocked the industry most? Kilmer later admitted he lost himself so completely in Doc Holliday that he couldn't find his way back to being Val Kilmer for months after filming Wrapped. The performance that made him a legend nearly cost him his sanity. Method acting had claimed another victim. 3. The Wyatt Earp War that split Hollywood. Nobody knew that Tombstone was fighting a secret war against Kevin Costner's ego. 2 Wyatt Earp films were racing to theaters, and Costner was determined to destroy Tombstone before it could compete with his epic Wyatt Earp. The behind-the-scenes sabotage was ruthless. Costner used his Hollywood connections to steal locations, poach crew members, and even attempt to block Tombstone's release date. Studio executives whispered about mysterious phone calls, warning them away from supporting Russell's production. The conspiracy ran deeper than anyone imagined. Costner's people allegedly leaked false stories about Tombstone's troubled production to entertainment reporters. What Costner didn't expect? Tombstone's scrappy underdog spirit and Russell's guerrilla filmmaking tactics. When both films hit theaters, audiences chose the lean, mean Tombstone over Costner's bloated 3-hour epic. The devastating truth. Costner's Wyatt Earp bombed spectacularly, while Tombstone became the definitive Western. Hollywood's golden boy had been outgunned by a film he tried to kill. Justice served, Old West style. 4. Powers Boothys' disturbing research terrified the cast. Here's what they never told you about Powers Boothys' transformation into Curly Bill Brocious. The veteran actor didn't just study the historical outlaw. He dove into the minds of real serial killers and psychopaths. Boothys spent months reading FBI profiles, watching documentaries about mass murderers, and studying violent criminals. Cast members became genuinely uncomfortable around him as filming progressed. His eyes took on a dead, predatory stare that chilled everyone on set. Between takes, Booth would remain in character, making disturbing comments that weren't in the script. Other actors avoided him during lunch breaks. What shocked the industry most? Booth later revealed he couldn't sleep for weeks after filming Rap, haunted by the darkness he channeled. The research had infected his mind so deeply that he required therapy to separate himself from the character. His terrifyingly authentic performance came at a devastating personal cost nobody knew about. 5. Kurt Russell's mustache conspiracy controlled everything. Nobody knew that Kurt Russell's facial hair held more power than any studio executive. The mustache wasn't just a costume. Choice. It was Russell's secret weapon in a psychological war with Hollywood suits. Russell's contract contained bizarre stipulations about his appearance that gave him unprecedented control over the production. When studio executives tried to interfere with his vision, Russell would threaten to shave it off, knowing it would destroy continuity and cost millions in reshoots. The power play was genius and ruthless. Russell used grooming as leverage in every major decision, from casting choices to script changes. What the industry didn't realize? The mustache represented Russell's complete takeover of the film. Every time he appeared on set with that perfectly maintained facial hair, he was sending a message. I'm in charge here. The devastating truth? A simple grooming choice had given an actor more control than most directors ever dream of having. 6. Bill Paxton's career was sabotaged by his own performance. Here's the shocking truth about how Tombstone destroyed Bill Paxton's leading man dreams. Paxton's portrayal of the sniveling Morgan Herp was so convincingly pathetic that Hollywood couldn't see him as anything else afterward. The role that should have been a career boost became a career killer. Paxton had spent years trying to break free from supporting roles, desperately wanting to be taken seriously as a leading man. But his whimpering, cowardly Morgan was so memorable that casting directors couldn't imagine him as a hero. The typecasting was immediate and brutal. Scripts for romantic leads stopped coming. Action hero roles vanished. What nobody knew? Paxton later admitted he regretted taking the part, calling it one of his biggest career mistakes. The devastating irony? His performance was so good it convinced everyone he really was weak and frightened. The man who wanted to be a star had acted himself out of stardom forever. 7. The real Tombstone curse destroyed lives. Here's the devastating truth about Tombstone's deadly legacy that nobody talks about. Cast members didn't just play doomed outlaws, they became them. Powers Booth died unexpectedly in 2017, his career never fully recovering from the darkness he channeled. Bill Paxton suffered a sudden, shocking death in 2017 after routine surgery went wrong. The eerie parallels to the actual Tombstone figures were undeniable. Just like the real Morgan Herp died young and tragically, so did Paxton. Other cast members faced mysterious career declines, personal struggles, and health issues that seemed to mirror their characters' fates. What shocked the industry most? The film's connection to actual death and violence seemed to follow everyone involved. Even crew members reported strange accidents and misfortunes years later. The curse wasn't just Hollywood superstition, it was a pattern of real tragedy that haunted the production. Those who survived whispered about the film's dark energy, wondering if playing with death had invited it into their lives. 8. Michael Biehn's bitter betrayal cut deep. Nobody knew that Michael Biehn's Johnny Ringo was fighting a war both on and off camera. The veteran actor had been promised a much larger role that would showcase his range, but ruthless editing slashed his scenes to ribbons. Bienh watched helplessly as his carefully crafted performance was butchered in post-production. The financial disputes were even more brutal. Payment disagreements led to heated confrontations with producers who treated him like expendable talent. What the industry didn't realize, Bien's public criticism of the film years later came from genuine heartbreak and professional betrayal. He'd given everything to create a memorable villain, only to see his work minimized and his contributions dismissed. The devastating truth? Bien never fully recovered from the experience, becoming increasingly selective about roles and harboring resentment toward the production that should have elevated his career. His bitterness toward Tombstone became Hollywood legend, a cautionary tale about how the industry chews up even its most dedicated performers. 9. The blood that wasn't fake stained everything. Here's what they never told you about the real violence behind Tombstone's staged gunfights. Actual injuries and dangerous accidents were covered up to protect the production's reputation. Stunts went horribly wrong during the climactic shootouts, with actors suffering cuts, burns, and concussions that required immediate medical attention. The most shocking incident? Real blood mixed with fake blood during several scenes, but audiences never knew which was which. Cast members were genuinely hurt, but forced to continue filming to meet brutal deadlines. Medical emergencies were hushed up by studio executives terrified of insurance claims and safety investigations. What nobody realized? Some of the most intense, realistic moments in the film came from actual pain and fear. The desperation in actors' eyes wasn't just good acting, it was real terror. The devastating truth. The line between entertainment and actual violence had been crossed so many times that even the cast couldn't tell the difference anymore. 10th, Dana Delaney's shocking discovery changed everything. Here's the devastating truth about Dana Delaney's research that nearly destroyed her performance. The actress discovered that the real Josephine Marcus had a dark, disturbing history the film completely whitewashed. Josephine wasn't the refined lady portrayed on screen. She was involved in prostitution, gambling, and potentially violent crimes that would shock modern audiences. Delaney's preparation for the role uncovered police records, newspaper accounts, and historical documents that painted a completely different picture. The real woman was manipulative, dangerous, and possibly complicit in several suspicious deaths. What nobody knew? Delaney struggled with how to portray this character authentically while maintaining the film's romantic vision. The psychological conflict nearly broke her performance as she wrestled with playing a sanitized version of someone so morally complex. The industry was stunned when Delaney later revealed how the historical truth had haunted her throughout filming. The woman Wyatt Earp loved was nothing like the Hollywood version, and that knowledge poisoned every romantic scene. The Old West was brutal, but Hollywood's version cuts deeper. Want more shocking movie secrets that'll blow your mind? Hit subscribe and ring that bell. You won't believe what's coming next.